Yeah. True story, you dealing with the best in chess. Fish gang, where you at? Time to represent. Coach, show them how we run it. It's time to do it big. Let the world stream live. You can find him on Twitch. Right from the opening until he holla checkmate. Coach keep it entertaining, yeah, all day. Some people donate, some try to hate. Tell them don't hide. Check them online, chess.com. Yeah, that's where it goes down. He don't see no competition every time he look around. People yelling true story, sounding like Coach. If you ready, come rock with him. You know how it goes. Hey, yeah.
Okay, welcome to the video recording VOD. We're doing another game analysis, and today we're going to look at a couple of Atomic Juds games, and we're going to try to go over some of the basic principles that we need to be thinking about with a rating under 1300. So let's get started right away. We're going to be looking at this game from the black perspective, and one of the things that I want to speak to right away is your opening principles, the ABCs of chess. Activate your pieces, be safe with your king, centralize your pieces. These principles apply to any opening. It doesn't matter what opening that you're playing. So right away, for those who might not know, the center of the board is considered these four squares. This is what we're talking about when we say centralize your pieces. We want activity on these four center squares, either control of those four center squares, influence of those four center squares, or your pieces passing through those four center squares with their control. So right away, we see white has played e4 and black responded with e5. Everything's nice and dandy there. White challenges black's influence or control over the e5 square, and then black chose to defend that pawn with another pawn. Now, more naturally, you should be activating your pieces. So in this case, an opportunity to activate a piece would be to develop a piece. We can develop a piece and still defend the e5 pawn and be one step further, because the more pieces we have developed, the faster we can begin attacking our opponent. So that's the first opportunity for improvement in this game. D6 was played, and another reason why I'm not terribly excited about D6 is because we're trying to activate our pieces, be safe with our king, and centralize our pieces. And in this case, this bishop is going to be permanently handicapped. This bishop has become a bad piece right away unless we end up making another pawn move later. So here we go. White is developing his pieces towards the center. You notice how this bishop is influencing the D5 square. The pawn is on the D5 square. The knight is hitting these two squares. So white is doing what he's supposed to be doing with influence and control over the center. Black responds with a development move that is good. He's getting ready to get his king safe. Now, I know he's probably terrified about a move like this, but there is a natural response, and that is nothing to worry about, especially had black played knight c6 earlier. But let's continue. D3 got played, and then black chose to push a pawn in front of his king, and that is another one of the things that we want to talk about as a principle, and that is avoid pushing pawns in front of your king unless it stops checkmate. That's a principle, and that's something that we should be, keeping mindful. So even though the king has not gone to that side of the board, he will be on that side of the board, and that pawn push will become a weakness that we might have to react and respond to. So let's continue. White continues to activate his pieces, getting his pieces out real nicely, even though he could have simply castled right there. That's probably what I recommend. And then black chose to develop a piece on the queen side, castle, and then here's another opportunity to talk about a principle, and that is don't attack before you get your king safe. Let's go with that. Don't attack before you get your king safe. And the idea here is if you start attacking before your king is safe, it will become easier for your opponent to counterattack you because your king is in the middle of the board. Okay, so that's something that we should try to avoid. In this case, this pawn push allows black to get his bishop out. In hindsight, that's not terrible. It is a little bit of a sacrifice, but it's not terrible. However, it was a sacrifice and then followed up by another sacrifice. Now, in this position, I should make a note that you should always pay attention to every move your opponent makes. Okay? Pay attention to every move your opponent makes, because sometimes they make mistakes. And in this case, the queen slid over to the D1 square, threatening to attack the E5 square, but yet he left the knight in a precarious position. And instead of castling here, I probably would have snapped this knight off the board. It doesn't even matter that, you know, check happens, because we can simply block the check, and then he's got to weaken himself. And this goes back to our idea when we said avoid pushing pawns in front of the king. So this position looks like the principle that we've already talked about. Avoid pushing pawns in front of your king unless it absolutely stops checkmate. That is the kind of position that has arose with this variation. So let's go back. He didn't do it. Black castled. And now white had the opportunity to not get himself in a quandary. However, black played an awesome move, I think, and that is he pinned the knight to the queen. Now, the second part of pinning a knight is to put pressure on the pinned piece. Put pressure on the pinned piece. PP on the P. Okay, put pressure on the pinned piece. So the first thing that happened here is black put pressure on the pinned piece, and notice that there is no support or relief coming from the F pawn to hold that knight. And if you play the D pawn, the bishop just captures, and then that would be a double attack on the knight. So I like this move that was played by black. And I also like the move that was played by white. White has decided to counterattack by sacrificing a pawn and simultaneously discovering on the F7 square, which is going to be difficult to defend. Now, of course, we could move our rook, but then the knight would no longer be pinned. So in this position, things get hairy really quickly. So the game continued. Unfortunately, black did not see what was going on with the discovery. And had he even seen it, I'm not so sure that there's anything else that he could do other than to capture this pawn. I recommend, you need to at least capture this pawn. So if the check comes and the king goes somewhere, maybe here. If bishop takes rook, we can take here, and actually, no, that doesn't work. I don't like that idea. Sorry. Let's take another look. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. King moves. He takes the rook. Oh, okay. Takes the rook. Takes here. And then the bishop is trying to go somewhere. Maybe here. That's what I was saying. I'm sorry. I drew a blank on that. But anyway, that didn't happen. Two rooks, a bishop, and a knight, and then this bishop is precariously placed. So we have 3, 6, 11 versus 10, 16. Yeah, he's going to have to get a piece back. This bishop has got to come off the board. All right, so anyway, that didn't happen. C6 got played. D4, we already talked about. D4 doesn't actually do anything because the bishop can capture. And instead of capturing, now we've got a situation where black has 2 pieces under attack. So this goes back to what we were saying, you know, pay attention to every move your opponent makes because, you know, you can be under attack. Pay attention to every move your opponent makes. That's a thing. So one of the things that, you know, to get good at chess is you want to try to start anticipating what it is that your opponent can do. And in this case, both players are kind of just moving without paying attention to that. Now, in this position, black has chosen not to take anything and move his queen, which is very odd. White has chosen to move his queen and allowing black to start to untangle himself from this position. And now it is black who is winning. And white is the one who should be paying attention to every move. More pieces coming off the board as white has not figured out that so here we missed the checkmate, right? The pawn pushing pawns in front of your king does not save the day. It does create another weakness, and I believe black saw the fork first instead of continuing with the checkmate. So he goes for the fork. There's a counterattack on the queen. The fork still is in play. Black moves the queen out of harm's way and sets up another mate threat. And another pawn push in front of the king causes white to sleep with the fishes. So anyway, this was an instructive game, a short instructive game. A lot of lessons learned in there. And a lot of things for us to reinforce, but the most important is avoid pushing pawns in front of your king, activate your pieces, the ABCs of chess, activate your pieces, be safe with your king, centralize your pieces, and also to pay attention to every move that your opponent is making so that you might be able to anticipate what their plan is, as well as see how their move influences your plan. Thank you so much. And we will see you guys at twitch.tv/chesscoachnet.
Yeah. True story, you dealing with the best in chess. Fish gang, where you at? Time to represent. Coach, show them how we run it. It's time to do it big. Let the world stream live. You can find him on Twitch. Right from the opening until he holla checkmate. Coach keeping entertaining, yeah, all day. Some people donate, some try to hate. Tell them don't hide. Check them online, chess.com. Yeah, that's where it goes down. He don't see no competition every time he look around. People yelling true story, sounding like Coach. If you ready, come rock with him. You know how it goes. Hey, yeah.
Peace.